So Liverpool have beaten Ipswich 2-0 in their first game of the Premier League season away at Portman Road. Now, we'll just go through the game itself, but if you haven't already subscribed, please do consider doing so. Anyway, Liverpool, let's go through it. Starting 11, I think, was almost what we'd expect it to be, really. Obviously, Alisson in goal. Robertson, I guess, was a bit of a surprise at fullback, seeing he's had a little bit of injury concerns, a little bit of fitness sort of issues as such, obviously coming back from that shoulder injury. However, slotted straight into team next to Virgil van Dijk, who again I think had a very good game today, and Mr. Jarell Quansah, who, it was an interesting one. I wasn't opposed to it. I honestly think that Jarell Quansah should be the starting centre-half next to Van Dijk this season, but he did only get the 45 minutes, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. At fullback, Trent Alexander-Arnold, again, we know the quality, we know how good he is. I thought he was, honestly, Liverpool's second best player today. Thought he was really, really good, not just defensively, pinging balls as we know he can do. I'm talking about his defensive work. I thought he really covered Quansah at times very, very well, and just all around had a very, very solid game. Now, as we know, Slot plays the three in the midfield, so today that was Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai. It looked as if Szoboszlai and Gravenberch kind of played the more defensive roles in that, and McAllister sort of sat a little bit in front. However, the fluidity that they all had, pretty much all of them were rotating in that position at some stage. In the first half, it looked pretty poor, I'll be honest. There wasn't really a lot going on, not really much creativity, not really much, honestly, just not really much possession of the ball. They couldn't seem to keep hold of it in the middle there. But when that second half cropped in, players sort of livened up a bit, it all seemed to sort of click a little bit better, and they were able to run forward and honestly perform very, very well. And then our front three for the start of the game: Luis Diaz on the left, Mohamed Salah on the right, and Diogo Jota down the middle. Now, I think a lot of Liverpool fans sort of agreeing with me on this, that I really want Jota to have a full season up front. It's purely just a question of, can he stay fit? I think if he can, he's proven enough now to show that he probably should be the starting number 9 for Liverpool. And again, obviously gets his goal today. Did also miss from 6 yards out, let's not forget that. Not exactly his finest moment, but he got his goal. You can't really ask for much more than that. And again, for the second goal, Salah, right wing, just very, very nice play between himself and Szoboszlai. Trent getting involved as well. It was just a very, very nicely well-worked goal. Both goals were really well-worked, honestly. So you can see the influence that Slot ball is having on this team. It's just trying to get it to click a little bit earlier, I feel. But going through key moments of the game themselves, obviously, let's have a touch on Ipswich. Firstly, first Premier League game in 22 years. Unlucky to my man Harvey Bell. I know he was really, really excited about this match, was thinking Ipswich could do something. These things happen, my friend. But in the first half, they looked arguably the better team. Genuinely, they just absolutely went at Liverpool, full guns blazing, just not necessarily creating too many clear-cut chances. I mean, you had Hutchinson in the first half, which was blocked very well by Quansah. You then also had the header from, is it Greaves? I don't know. They had a header which Alisson just sort of literally fell on. So, yeah, they were there. They were in ascendancy as such, but they seem to run out of steam massively. I guess when the first goal goes in, the heads do drop, but they just seem to really lack that fitness, that Premier League level of energy that you need to sustain in 90 minutes, especially if you're a lower league side. You're going to be running around, you're going to be chasing the ball, these things are going to happen. So that could be cause for concern with Ipswich. Again, a few new players coming in for them. Sammy Smollett came on, they obviously had Delap up front, who's a new signing. Again, Greaves, I believe, is a new player as well, who actually was probably their man of the match as such. So there's promising signs there for Ipswich. I do fear it might be a long season for them. I'm hoping that no matter what, they will continue to try and play the football that they played in the Championship, because that was actually quite entertaining stuff. So we'll see how they get on. But going back to the Liverpool perspective, obviously we had that second half or half-time substitution. So we had Jarell Quansah coming off for Ibou Konate. Now, this was literally a head-scratcher for me. I thought Quansah played very, very well in the first half. I thought he got caught out once down the right-hand side of the defence for Liverpool, where Trent did have to come in and cover him and do well. But at the same time, as I mentioned, he put in a great block against Hutchinson in the first half. His ball play and general distribution isn't terrible. He lost the ball a couple of times, maybe, like with a wayward pass, but to be honest, everyone did in that first half for Liverpool. I don't think it was really just him. I mean, I thought Robertson in the first half was pretty poor. There were some poor touches, some poor sort of defensive work from him himself. So I think it was harsh to sacrifice him at half-time. I feel like half of it is probably down to the fact that Slot doesn't know who his second centre-back is. Obviously, he's got the rock that is Van Dijk on one side. Who is going to partner him? I want it to be Kwanzaa, but then at the same time, Konate came in today and didn't really put a foot wrong. He had a very quiet half, which I guess was probably half down to Liverpool playing better, half down to Ipswich just running out of gas and not really being able to do a lot. So, interesting one there. I don't know quite who's going to start the next game at centre-half. I wouldn't honestly like to say. But either way, Liverpool do still manage to keep that clean sheet. And realistically, relatively speaking, they kind of kept Alisson kind of not busy. Not that you really want your keeper to be making flying saves all the time. We know how good he is. But if you can avoid any sort of shots, any sort of clear-cut chances, especially in the second half, which Liverpool did, that's all a positive sign. We'll just quickly touch on the other Slot substitution. Oh god, that's a mouthful. Slot substitutions that he did make throughout the game. So obviously we had the front line switching up a little bit. We had Jota coming off for Gakpo, which I thought was very interesting because Gakpo is predominantly, for me, best suited on the left-hand side, and he's once again, kind of how he did under Klopp, swapped in at that number 9 role. Not only is that not necessarily his best position, but also it shows you where Núñez is currently on the pecking order, which, I mean, everybody has their own opinion on Darwin Núñez, but for him specifically, if he's third choice centre-forward now, that's a bit of a concern for a man who we spent 80 million on or something ridiculous. So that's an interesting one there. We obviously also had the likes of Conor Bradley and Chimikas coming on. I do feel like Chimikas was kind of, as we mentioned earlier, down to Robertson's just lack of fitness. Don't think it will necessarily be a full rotation option every game, we'll see. But again, it made sense for this game. And honestly, Chimikas was really good in pre-season, so I wasn't exactly too upset about it. I do think Chimikas for a backup left back is honestly probably one of the best ones in the league. So happy enough with that. And then we saw Trent coming off for Conor Bradley, who again definitely warrants more minutes this season. Obviously broke out last season whilst Trent was injured. Is now at a stage where, we have a world-class right back or a world-class footballer in right back and a very good up-and-coming right back. So how are we going to manage that? So seeing him get 20 minutes at the end of the game, happy enough with that, especially when the game was almost wrapped up and almost done. We didn't really need Trent's attacking influence as much as what we did, say, 15, 20 minutes earlier. So, all positive signs, shows how good the squad is sort of becoming and developing into. I do feel like Liverpool did sort of almost highlight today that they are still missing that midfielder, that person that can break up play and also distribute it technically. I feel like that's where Slot is sort of so far different to Klopp, in the sense that Klopp's midfields are historically always had engines. They've always had people that go in, destroy, run themselves into the ground. Slot had Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch in there today. All three of them are technicians. They are technically good players. They're not necessarily most acrobatic, most athletic, going to run themselves ragged for you. But they've just got ball knowledge. They're just ballers. That is what they're good at. They're good at the technical side of the game. So if you can have somebody that blends both of those brilliantly in more of a defensive mindset, because realistically when you look at Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and McAllister, there isn't too much defensive know-how up here. You can get away with it against the likes of Ipswich. I fear if you have a better team coming up against this Liverpool midfield, that centrepiece is a bit soft and it could fold and be broken through quite a few times, which Ipswich did kind of demonstrate in that first half there. So, all in all, incredibly positive performance, particularly in the second half. Salah looks like he's back to his best. Jota up front is a breath of fresh air. Hopefully, if he can stay fit, easy 20 goals a season. Genuinely, I think easy 20 goals a season up front. Again, the defence was relatively solid. It's a bit interesting what's going on with that centre-half situation there. And again, speaking of centre-halves, obviously Joe Gomez not been involved in the match squad at all. Is he on his way out of Liverpool? I'll be a little bit sad if he is, because I feel like Liverpool need to add another centre-back, let alone get rid of one and potentially swap one and bring in a different one. So, all interesting signs ahead. Let me know what you guys think all down below, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing. But yeah, thanks ever so much for watching, and Liverpool top of the league as it stands for the next, 45 minutes at least, so happy days there. Thanks very much, guys.